Hello everyone and welcome to the How Good Are. Today we're going to talk about the babies. We're going to talk about Tsuruno&Felicia delivery version. Ooh. So they do have some interesting stuff to them, and yes, we're going to have to worry about 3 memoria in this gacha as well. Usually they only have 2 special memoria in the gacha, 3 in this one. But yeah, let's get started on Tsuruno&Felicia themselves as characters. So their Magia type, which some people find a bit interesting. And in general, we actually see something that we'll see throughout this entire unit, as this entire unit is basically mostly a Tsuruno alt, with just Felicia hanging out in the back, I guess, because there's not too much about this duo that screams Felicia, so it seems like we know who the top is in this relationship. They have 2 Exalters, 2 Blasters, they are of course fire type. And, well, I guess I can talk about their personal very quickly. It gives Magia damage up for 1 turn, which can be fine. If you're trying to go for super duper high damage, then yeah, this is actually fine. It's not written down here what the effect on fully MLB is, but I would assume it's either 25 or 27.5% Magia damage up, which is, it's fine. I should mention something at this point that I don't bring up that often, that is kind of important about Magia damage, is that Magia damage is a separate modifier and multiplier from all other effects. So for example, damage up and Magia up don't go into the same box, where you would have, for example, if you had a blast up or a damage up, for example, 40% blast up, 40% damage up, those would just add up to 80% because they're both in the same box. But Magia up is completely separate from that and is multiplicative with the rest. So if you already have a whole bunch of damage with all your damage up modifiers and everything, then Magia up on top of that can be very powerful. It's just that, as I also mentioned in other videos, before you get to those really high damage modifiers where Magia up can be really important, before then, Magia up itself doesn't do anything. Like if your character has absolutely no damage up or damage increase or anything like that on them, then 20% Magia up is basically the same as 20% damage up, at least for just the Magia. So yeah, that's the reason why I usually don't like Magia up too much, because it's mostly only good when you already have a whole bunch of modifiers. However, let's keep going. Their stats are pretty good. They don't have a lot of defense or HP, which is kind of expected because they're both the Unga Bunga sisters. And they do have a lot of attack, though, quite a lot of attack. And since they are Magia type, we'll see that they're going to try and channel all of that attack into their Magia. How well can they do that? Well, first off, let's talk about the Connect, which in my opinion is actually the most important part about them, because here's the thing. It gives 40% attack up. It gives 50% XLMP gain up, which is fine, so you would probably use this on a Magia team anyway. I mean, they're Magia type, but with the Connect giving XLMP gain up, you probably would really like to play them on a Magia team. But the Flame Attribute Attack Up is a new mechanic that we've seen, and it has also already been data mined that there's going to be a Dark Attribute Attack Up already, very soon. My money is on it being Hana's SE, but it could also be just the very next character that comes after this, which will probably be announced in like 10 days from now, even before that. Like just a week from now, that very next character could already be having Dark Attack up as well. So how exactly does this work? Well, we don't actually quite know. We don't actually quite know exactly how this would work so far. My guess is that it acts like a secondary effect, a secondary attack up effect that just adds to the other attack up, which means that in this case, if it was a flame attribute character you're connecting to, they get 40% regular attack up and 25% attribute attack up, which would be a total of 65% attack up. And I assume that both of these effects, I mean, I know the attack up itself goes to 100%, I assume the flame attribute attack up, because it is a red buff, and red buffs always go to 100%, that this can also stack up to 100%, so you can get a maximum of regular attack up 100% and flame attribute attack up 100%, and I assume they both just add up to 200% total attack up that is possible. Of course, something to note is that this doesn't really mean a whole lot. First off, it means nothing if you're connecting with a character that isn't fire type, but secondly, if you don't have a lot of other sources of attack up that might make you overcap, that's not really that big of a deal. For example, let's say the only character you have on your team is Mikage, who uses like doppel once every like 4 turns or whatever, and otherwise you don't really have a lot of other attack ups on your team, then you're not gonna overcap on attack up. And if you're not overcapping on attack up, how useful would something like Flame Attribute Attack Up actually be? Because imagine if instead this was just 65% attack up. Yeah, that's really good. I don't know. It's hard for me to talk exactly about this, because I think we just need to see a lot more of this in action, and we need to see it on more characters. I'll say right now, though, that getting more attack up is always really nice, but maybe this is a bit too much of something that only a few characters can use. We'll have to see how this develops from now, like I said, especially with other characters that get this effect, so it's really hard to immediately have a sort of verdict on this. But at least we can say already, we should use this on a team that's fire type. And I actually had another idea about this. Since the Japanese server doesn't have Tercio, and still haven't gotten Tercio after so much time of NA already being dead, maybe they're not going to get Tercio anytime soon. And instead, instead of adding Tercio, they'll do something like this, where now elements get attack up to other characters of that element, so that you get sort of pushed into playing multiple characters of that element on the same team, so they can buff each other's attack ups like for example, Dark Element attack up. Maybe Akuma Homura would have something like that, Dark Element attack up for the entire team, so you could play that on a Dark team and would have a really good time. And that could be the sort of not quite Tercio, but still kind of Tercio of JP. We don't know. Anyway, so yeah, good on Fire team, good on Fire Excel teams. I'm gonna show you guys later what characters I would pair up with Tsuruno&Felicia, but for now let's keep going. The Magia is basically kind of the same. It does damage to all enemies. Flame attribute attack up to all allies. So all allies for 3 turns get more flame attribute attack up, and attack up to self for 3 turns. So we get 30% attack up on flame attribute and 45% on self. Now if you're running a full fire team, this is not actually that good of a Magia. Do you want to know why? Because there's plenty of other characters out there that give more than 30% just attack up to everyone for also 3 turns. Even Manaka does. I think like Manaka gives like 35% attack up to all allies for like 3 turns. Like to all allies and not just flame attribute. And I mean the other part of this is it buffs your own attack, which is good. Getting a bunch of attack for yourself is also good. But even so, you're kind of giving up one of your effects, like your party-wide effect is only for fire types, which means that, yeah, you really should only play her in a fire team, because outside of a fire team, she gives a buff to the entire team that only benefits herself, and she's buffing herself anyway, so I guess she double buffs herself anyway, but it kind of sucks that the rest of the team doesn't get anything. So yeah, you really have to play on a fire team. We're gonna see that this keeps going. However, here's something that I really like. I really like this, and I think they are gonna do more of this, and I hope that they keep continuing to do more of this. Is when the Doppel, or in this case Magia 2, it actually is kind of a Doppel. They both use the Doppel at the same time actually, but they also they both use the Doppels, then attack with their Doppels, then transform back, and then run them over with their bike. Like that's actually their Magia 2 animation. So I guess it's both a Doppel and a Magia 2. I don't know. I will say though that they just copy pasted basically the effects of both their Doppels. They're not the gameplay effects, like the visual effects. They just copy pasted both of their Doppel animations, saving a lot of money, aren't you, F4S? They saved so much money with this character. Anyway, what I was going to say is I really like this when Magia 2 or Doppels get more effects, or get effects that are noticeably stronger. For example, there's a bunch of characters, for example, that give, let's say, for example, critical hit and evade to themselves or to other people, and when you go from Magia to Doppel, that effect usually doesn't get stronger, only by like 5%, or like, there's not really a big increase making you think, like, why should I use Doppel? If I just want the evade or the crit, I would just use Magia, right? Why go all the way to Doppel if it's just a bit more damage and otherwise it's nothing? However, I really like it when there's actually somewhat of a reason to go to Magia 2 or Doppel other than just more damage. And in this case, or rather with Mikage as an example, a really good example, going from Magia to Doppel makes it so that your buffs last 2 turns longer, which is amazing, absolutely perfect as a support. And secondly, also applies a burn on the target, which is also really awesome. And in this case, to actually get back to Tsuruno&Feli, as you would call them, we have defense down to all targets, 35%. This is actually one of the only parts of this entire unit that has Felicia in there, because Felicia is known for having defense down on her Magia. So yeah, you get defense down against all enemies for 5 turns. That's a long time, and this helps everyone, not just flame type. Once again, we have flame attribute attack up 5 turns, yay, and attack up 5 turns to self, 55%. That's actually incredible. So I really like the fact that Magia 2 is a notable increase in power level over Magia, not just in damage, but in its utility as well, and quite a large step. Like, Magia 2 is more than twice as effective at being used for utility and support as Magia is. That's really awesome. So you would really like to have that Magia 2, because that defense down is absurd. To have it for 5 turns, that attack up on self is absurd, and if you're playing a fire team, 5 turns of flame attack attribute attack up, that's also absurd. So, I guess we really need to play this character on a flame team, and not just a flame team. I guess you also need to play that character on a Magier team. This is already that I can say before looking at the Spirit Hearts. This is already I can say about this character, is that this character already looks really strong, but only on Magier flame teams, and that's kind of sad. I guess you can play them on a regular flame team, but then they might have trouble getting to Magier 2, and you really want to get to Magier 2. Magier 2 is so powerful that you just want to get there as soon as possible, right? For 5 turns of amazing buffs and a defense down on the enemy, awesome. You want to get there as soon as possible, so you kind of need to play on a Magier team, because if you like to play, some people have said, oh, you play this with Kyoko, so you can give Kyoko, but if you play this with Kyoko, or any of the two Kyokos, or any Blast team in general, or even a Charged Gorilla team, maybe, this is what's going to happen. You're going to use the Flame Attribute Attack Up from the Connect, but if you're using a Blaster, regular Tsuruno has like Attack Up and Blast Up, which is like a way better Connect than this is, right? The MP gain up is going to be useless, so I would just take a Connect that has a Blast Up instead of an Attack Up for like a Blaster team. So they're not even the best for supporting Blasters. You can take other people to support Blasters. And they have to specifically support Fire Blasters as well, when there's a lot of really fucking amazing Blasters that aren't Fire. I feel really bad about that. Probably don't use them on Blasting, probably don't use them with Kyoko, because they're also not going to really get to Magier. And even if they do get to Magier, they're only going to give 30% attack up to their Blasters for 3 turns. That's not good enough. Kazumi gives everyone like 55% blast up for 3 turns. That's fucking powerful. Now that is a blast support, right? But these don't really scream blast support to me at all. I don't think they would do well on a blast team at all. They're gonna slow down their own Magier. They're gonna slow down. I mean, slowing down their own Magier also slows down their own attack up, right? They themselves become worse if you play them not on a Magier team. So you want to play them on a Magier team so that they themselves become stronger and they have an easier time making other people stronger. Yeah, don't play them with Blasters. So you play them with specifically Excel Fire characters. And that's kind of a really narrow niche. Like, yeah, you can find a bunch of... I'm going to show you some characters, don't worry. But still, the fact that you have to play them in a specific niche kind of sucks. I would like characters to have more options, but still, within that niche, if you play that team, they're gonna be absolutely fucking amazing, okay? Moving on to Spirit Hearts, there's actually not too much to talk about here. They get 15% evade, which is awesome. They get the 100% Magier Seal, really good. You don't want to get Magier Sealed. I would have liked some status aiming resistance in there as well, because what's usually stopping you from using Magier casting is not Magier Seal, but like getting stunned or charmed or something like that. So maybe a status aiming resistance would have worked better. But even so, it's okay that you at least don't get Magier Sealed. MP gain up 10%, but no Excel MP gain up, like the active has it, but no Excel MP gain up passive. That's a bit weird. A bunch of other notes that aren't too important. Force attribute damage cut, whatever. And 7.5% attack up. It says flame attribute damage up, but it's basically just an attack up. There still is somewhat of a reason why this is specifically flame attribute attack up and not just attack up. Because here's the thing, if this was just attack up, it would go into the same cap as other attack ups. Like, for example, if you used Magier twice, you would already be basically at the cap. And this would not do anything anymore once you're out of the cap. But since this is flame attribute attack up, it goes into a different pod, into a different box than the regular attack up, and you wouldn't overcap as easily. So this just helps you from not capping too fast on attack up by this being a flame attribute attack up. But yeah, of course, they're flame attributes, so of course they get this attack up. And the active gives you XL gain up for 3 turns. What this also screams to me is that you try and get their Magier discs as soon as possible, which by the way would have made it really way better if this was Excel draw. Because if this was not Excel draw, personalized draw. Not Excel draw wouldn't even be that good. This was personalized draw or something, then you could immediately do like ACA combo with the Excel MP gain up, and that would actually be really, really good to immediately shoot up really fast in MP and get all the way up there. It would have been really nice. And you could have immediately loaded up the Connect to get other people, give other people that Excel MP gain up. That would have been way better, but you know what? It's okay. So yeah, it's basically you try and shoot up in MP as fast as you can, get all the way to Magier 2 immediately, then give everyone 5 turns of really awesome buffs, and if you're fighting a boss, that boss is going to have 5 turns of defense down, which is also really good, and overall, that's basically your playstyle. And your Magier is also going to hit pretty well, because you have a whole bunch of Magier damage up bonuses from here. That is also really amazing. Now, I basically given my verdict already before talking about the Spirit Enhancement, because the Spirit Enhancement doesn't really change anything. The Spirit Enhancement is nice, but it still really doesn't change a whole lot about everything that I just said. So instead, let's talk about some other stuff we need to talk about. I told you guys I want to talk about some characters that go well with them. Well, let's talk about the Memoria first. So we have 3 Memoria that are in this gacha. Welcome to the Junk House, where we have Shikoharu once again being useless in the background. I know I keep ragging on Shikoharu, but it's kind of like, that's the story. The story of these 2 characters is that they're so terrible that they get shreked every single time they do anything. That's part of the story, right? And I'm just telling you what the story of these characters is. But like I said, that makes them endearing to people. Because attack up at full health and defense up at full health as well as regenerate HP. Because regenerate makes it so you stay at health more easily. So if you just get hit by a very small hit, you might regenerate that HP back up. Is that still a good Memoria? No. Most other Memoria that give attack up give like 25% attack up, and this is only 30% attack up, but only at full health. So for having this added restriction of being only at full health, you only get 5% more attack. That's basically nothing. That's really not worth it in my opinion. Regenerate HP by itself is also not a whole lot, like 4%. That's basically nothing. Like if you get hit by anything that isn't just a small hit, you're already not gonna regenerate that HP back in just that turn. But I guess the defense up at full HP is nice, makes it more likely that regenerate will actually get you back to full HP. But once you drop just a little bit below full HP and your regenerate doesn't get you back to full HP, then basically this Memoria becomes useless for the rest of the fight, and this is kind of terrible. So only there might be some situations where you can guarantee that your guys stay full HP, or that your guys are only going to hit by very small attacks that they're going to regenerate back up. Then maybe, but even so, probably just take any other attack of Memoria that just always works, and that would be probably better. Next up we have Memories of Departure, anti-debuff for 1 turn, and damage increase. You probably just use this for the damage increase, but you can take this with you onto a quest where you know that enemies might have debuffs, and you not only get the damage, but you also get the debuffs. Awesome. But still, nothing too special. This is not a Memoria that I personally would use. And from the Fictitious Snowfield, which is, by the way, in the shop, MLB, and gives also a drop bonus. I think these 2 also give a drop bonus. Here's the thing, Memoria is not just in the shop, apparently it's also in the gacha, at least that's what it said. That's what some people have told me. I couldn't check myself, I haven't rolled. But apparently it's also in the gacha, but it doesn't give a drop bonus until it is MLB. Keep that in mind. So what does it do? Anti-stun, attack of 15%, nothing special, whatever. Now here's some characters that I think will work well together with Tsuruno&Felicia, and it's just fire characters that are strong and get to Magia, or have like Magia as part of the strategy. We have Shizuka, we have the Armpits girl. She has a really good synergy to just buff people's attack up really hard, so you're gonna get really high on the attack up, especially with this right here. Bloom Aura also really good, even more attack up from the Magia, so you're gonna get this. So Shizuka Tsuruno&Felicia combo will be to give everyone a crap ton of attack up, really good. What else do we have? We have more Armpits, and we have more fire balance characters. We have Ryoko, who works well because she's just a fire type who has good stats and uses Magia sometimes. I'm not really that hot on Ryoko, get it, as part of this team, because in general she's not that amazing of a character, but if you have no one else lying around, she is an unlimited character that you could play alongside Tsuruno&Felicia. I would say that story-wise they probably don't fit together well, because, you know, that Tsuruno&Felicia, they deliver food, right? I mean, they deliver other stuff as well, but also food, because they're from Banbansai. But Ryoko, she doesn't eat, because she's like a Buddhist monk, basically, so she starves herself as part of her ascetic lifestyle, and and that's why she probably wouldn't eat Banbansai ever, because she would get fat and like go against her Buddhist teaching, whatever. So next up we have Hanekawa, the 5 people that have her. She's actually a really good character. Her spirit enhancement isn't the best, but even so, she's kind of decent. She's a very decent fire Magia character. Has some pretty decent stuff, and you haven't made a review on her yet. She's on the list. Don't worry, she's on the list. She'll be in one of the next like 4 or 5 how good videos. But she's decent. She's pretty decent on a Magia team, so she will work out. Now that she has spirit enhancement. We also have Karin, of course. No need to talk about Karin, but yeah, she's a fire type character who gets to Magia fast, and she buffs as well. You could take it as like a secondary support, so you have 2 supporters, 1 Karin and 1 Tsuruno&Felicia, and they're going to do a good job supporting both attack up and damage up, so you have both attack up and damage up covered. And then of course you have Suzuno as someone who gets to Magia, but also deals some damage, so this might be your damage dealer. However, the big caveat about using Suzuno is that she doesn't have Spirit Enhancement yet. However, I assume she's going to get Spirit Enhancement, hopefully within the next few weeks, or at least the next 2 months or whatever. I assume she's going to get Spirit Enhancement at that point, so if you get Tsuruno&Felicia right now, keep in mind that Suzuno might be a good character to get, and I assume she'll have a rerun of her gacha and probably get SE hopefully in the next 2 weeks, 2 months. I don't know. But yeah, that was basically it about Tsuruno&Felicia. They are highly reliant on being in a fire Mario team, but if they are, oh god, are they fucking good. But yeah, that's, I hope you guys enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and I'll see you guys next time.